It has come to my attention that there are many Jamaicans who have no idea what racism is. Case in point, I made a response video to an Asian Jamaican and called him out for the disparaging tone in which he addressed the black majority of Jamaicans. And a lot of black Jamaicans came to his defense and called me racist for bringing attention to the idea of someone who is at the top of the racial hierarchy talking down to the people at the bottom. So let's get into a little bit of the history. From colonial times and post-independence, we have had a racial hierarchical structure that has not changed very much, if at all. We've had at the top people of European descent. We've had people of Middle Eastern descent. We've had people of Asian descent. We have people of who are light-skinned, Afro-Jamaicans. And at the very bottom, we have dark-skinned Afro-Jamaicans. Are there dark-skinned Afro-Jamaicans who have moved up closer to the top of the racial hierarchy? Absolutely. There are some who have been able to either marry their way or buy their way due to their socioeconomic status into higher association, much closer proximity to the non-black elite. And one of the reasons we see many upper class Afro-Jamaicans who are so steadfastly fighting against policies and against programs that would assist the lower class is because they know that the only thing keeping them in proximity to this top of the racial hierarchy is their wealth. Without this wealth, they would not be accepted into this position in the racial hierarchy. So that's one of the reasons why we see many elite black Jamaicans who steadfastly fight against policies and programs that impact and that would support people at the lower end of the ladder, because they themselves, their position is not tenable. Without the money that they have, they would immediately lose proximity to these people in the racial hierarchy. From my position as a dark-skinned Afro-Jamaican, I do not benefit from this racial hierarchy. And since I don't have 2 shillings to rub together, I cannot buy my way into it either. You know whose interest it's in to call people like me racist? The people who benefit from the system. The people who benefit the most from this racial hierarchical structure. It is a benefit to them to make you feel like your oppression is coming from people like me so that you take your eyes off them. But let me go back to a point that Jamaicans keep saying over and over again, which is, it's not about race, it's about economics. It's not about race, it's about education. It's not about race, it's about the government policies. Okay, let's say for a minute that it's not about race. What do you call it when the poorest, least educated person from Asia, from the Middle East, from Europe, from anywhere else in the world can come into your country, can get opportunities to set up a business and have access to economic activities that the dark-skinned people of that population do not have? What do you call it when people follow the advice to get themselves a skill, to get themselves educated, to get themselves upgraded, when people do all these things and graduate at the top of their class and then have to change their address so that they can even be granted an interview? What do you call it when your children are sent home from school because their hairstyle, the chiny bump, is too ruly, because the way that their hair grow out of their head is considered unkempt? But Jonathan can have his long ponytail and nobody has a problem with it. What do you call it when states of emergencies are only talked about in relations to communities like Tivoli Gardens, but never Jacks Hill or Norwood? What do you call it when there are only certain communities that are routinely targeted for police raids, when dark-skinned Jamaicans are routinely held behind bars for the slightest crimes, smoking a ganja spliff, stealing akis, and there are other communities who, even though police have information of crimes being committed, they dare not enter to raid or to look for anyone there, much less charge them with a crime? There are many reasons why we continue to deny that racism is embedded in everything in Jamaica. My theory is that people are afraid. People are afraid that if they admit it, then they cannot keep saying, I just saw it go. If they admit it, then they will have to confront themselves. They will have to look within themselves and ask themselves why they are not doing anything about it. To acknowledge that racism exists is to acknowledge that we have been and still are and probably always will be at the bottom of this hierarchy. And that is something many of us are not willing to accept. If we accept that racism exists in Jamaica, then that means we can't go to places like the US and Canada and tell African Americans and tell black people there that they are lazy and that if they work harder, they can achieve something, because you are working hard in your country and you couldn't achieve anything because of racism, and that's why you migrated. To acknowledge racism in Jamaica means that you have to lose the illusion that you are better than other black people in the diaspora, in African countries, because you just are not. Because you are not immune to racism, even in your black majority country. To acknowledge racism in a country like Jamaica is to acknowledge that this system of oppression is being held up by black people who look like you, by black people who have proximity to whiteness, by black people who want to maintain their socioeconomic status, and they are willing to help the rest of them to oppress you. And that is what some of you can't live with, and that's why you say it has nothing to do with race. And even though I always make reference to the elite and the non-black of Jamaica, the fact is that there are a few of them who recognize that race is an issue. There are a few of them who have gone out of their way to stand up and to speak up for the people at the bottom of the racial hierarchy. I'm talking about people like Carolyn Gomes, who started Jamaicans for Justice to fight for the rights of poor black Jamaicans. I'm talking about people like Diana Macaulay, who almost single-handedly is leading the charge to protect our forests, to protect our beaches, to preserve them for the use of black Jamaicans, and to ask the government why, to keep pressing the government for answers as to why they keep selling out our resources to white people. I'm even talking about the Chinese merchants who in their communities are the ones who send people to school, are the ones who support community events, are the ones who the whole community, even more than politicians, they turn to, because they know that this person, every money they make, they give back some of it. Out of every dollar, they give back something to their community because they recognize that they get support from the community make them who they are, and they give back to the community. I have seen that with my own eyes. So when you have people who come on the internet and call you fully dunce, you must know why you take that as a compliment. You must know why you feel that these are the people that you choose to support and not the ones who are in the communities and helping build their communities. It's important to these people who benefit from the system as it is to ensure that you feel that you and them have something in common, that you feel that they're on your side, when in reality, the only thing that you have in common with these people is that you both touch the $1,000 bill as it passed through the mesh grill. At the end of the day, what has taken place since 1962 is a very successful campaign for the minds of the majority, over 90% dark-skinned Jamaicans, to believe that race is not a problem, to ignore and disregard the very thing that is keeping them oppressed, that is keeping them poor. And the system is designed so that a few people will succeed. And as long as you see that there are black managers somewhere, that there are rich black people somewhere, that there are wealthy black people on your TV, then you think that you can be one of them. Meanwhile, you are working within a system that is designed so that you will not be that. And that's why over 50% of our university graduates leave every year, because they immediately recognize that this is a system that was not designed for their success. But y'all keep drinking the milk.